The Chicago Bears just marched into Philadelphia on a freezing night when everyone had the Eagles pegged to dominate. And by the time the second quarter clock hit zero, the home crowd was already booing their own team. This wasn't some wild shootout that got away from the defense or a last-second miracle. The Bears lined up, shoved one of the best fronts in football backward play after play, and walked out with over 400 total yards and more than 280 on the ground. They turned the famous tush push into a turnover and made a championship roster look slow, confused, and completely out of answers. What makes that night hit different is how fast the laughing stopped across the entire NFC. 12 months earlier, the same Bears were the punchline, a team that couldn't protect its quarterback or finish a close game to save its life. Now they control the clock, bully people at the line of scrimmage, and leave stadiums quiet. The scary part for the rest of the conference isn't just the win, it's how clear their identity looks, like a team that finally knows exactly who it is and exactly where it's going. But here's the thing, nobody wants to admit out loud. Everything you just watched was built on the back of a rookie quarterback who spent his first year getting absolutely crushed behind chaos and bad coaching. Most guys break in that fire. Caleb Williams came out the other side throwing bullets and smiling. And the story of how Chicago went from that mess to this nightmare for the NFC starts in a place a lot darker than people remember. But before we get into that, hit the like and subscribe button for more Bears and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 200 likes on this video. Picture Thanksgiving night in Detroit last year. The Bears have the Lions dead to rights. 2 minutes left, one timeout burning in their pocket, and the sideline just freezes. Caleb Williams is screaming to get the play off while the clock melts. No coach calls it, so he spikes the ball too late and the drive dies. That single moment became the perfect snapshot of his entire rookie season. A talented kid stuck in a broken system that kept moving the target the second he aimed. The coaching staff he spent all offseason learning from vanished before Halloween. Shane Waldron got fired, Matt Eberflus followed him out the door soon after, and suddenly Thomas Brown was calling plays and running the team. Worse than the musical chairs was what Caleb Williams later said quietly. Some weeks nobody on the staff even sat down with the #1 overall pick to watch film. He ended up breaking down his own mistakes alone or with his dad in hotel rooms. The offensive line collapsed on cue, the run game ranked near dead last, and free rushers hit him before he finished his drop half the time. Still, somehow, he finished that disaster with 20 passing touchdowns against only 6 picks. Most quarterbacks come out of that kind of season needing therapy and a new zip code. Caleb Williams came out hungry, tougher, and ready for the one move that actually saved Chicago's future. Because the second Ben Johnson and a real plan walked through the door, everything you thought you knew about this franchise started flipping upside down fast. The moment Ben Johnson took the headset, the entire rebuild flipped from chasing highlights to winning the only way that lasts in January up front. Ryan Poles stopped listening to the noise about needing another star receiver and poured every resource into building a grown man offensive line. They brought in Drew Dahlman to lock down center, stole Jonah Jackson straight from Detroit so the calls and techniques never had to be taught twice, and added Joe Thuney, a guy who already owns multiple rings and knows exactly how to finish people in the run game. They didn't stop at the interior. Darnell Wright kept getting stronger on the right. Ozzie Trapilo and Theo Benedette turned into legitimate left tackle answers, and Braxton Jones moved into high-end depth instead of panic starter. Then Johnson handpicked the skill guys who fit the violence. Colston Loveland as a true dual-threat tight end who pancakes linebackers. Kyle Monangai to grind out the tough yards. DeAndre Swift for the home run speed, plus DJ Moore. Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and Cole Kmet waiting outside. The plan is brutally simple. Line up heavy, dare you to match the beef, then gash you with play action when you sell out to stop the run. This is Detroit's old blueprint, but tweaked perfectly for Caleb's arm talent and movement. Bootlegs, layered routes, easy answers off the run fake, everything designed to keep a young quarterback clean and confident instead of forcing him to save the day every snap. What nobody saw coming is how fast that room full of new faces turned into the nastiest front in the league. And that set the stage for the scariest 2 weeks any Bears fan has lived through in years. Week 1 at home against Minnesota felt like the entire city holding its breath. Caleb Williams came out firing quick, the crowd was roaring, the defense even gifted a pick six, and the Bears led big early. Then the Vikings turned the heat all the way up, extra blitzers flying in untouched, and suddenly the same old ghost showed up. 3 straight red zone trips, 0 touchdowns, and a 27-24 gut punch that had every talking head dusting off the same tired takes from last year. 7 days later, Detroit rolled into town and turned it into a horror show. The Lions hung 52 points on the board like it was practice, sacking Caleb 4 times, picking him once, and the final score read 52-21. Social media exploded with Tyson Bagent chants and hot takes that Ben Johnson's magic had already worn off. Critics ignored that no quarterback on earth wins when the defense can't get a single stop, but the noise was deafening anyway. Here's what nobody outside that building understood. Ben Johnson never flinched, never pointed fingers, never ripped the game plan apart for clicks. He just kept preaching the same message. Get more push on early downs, clean up the details, trust the process. That quiet confidence in the middle of a firestorm is exactly why the next month turned Chicago from doubters' favorite punchline into the most stressful team to play in the entire league. Everything flipped against Dallas when Caleb Williams finally got to show the league what clean pockets and a real run threat unlock. He carved them up for over 300 passing yards and 4 touchdown throws, picking apart a unit once coached by the same guy who used to make his life miserable. From that night on, the Bears stopped waiting for pretty and started collecting wins any way they had to, even if it meant every heart in Chicago aged 10 years by the final whistle. They escaped Vegas 25-24 after Max Crosby lived in the backfield all night, then blocked a last-second kick to survive Geno Smith in Seattle. A week later, they edged Jaden Daniels and the Commanders by 1 point, then ground out New Orleans 26-14 on a day Caleb barely cracked 200 yards and threw a pick. The only real blowout loss came in Baltimore 36, a reminder he's still growing, but he answered it the next week by slicing Cincinnati for 280 yards and 3 scores while feeding Colston Loveland like they were playing catch in the backyard. Kyle Monaghan and DeAndre Swift kept pounding until the entire offense sat second in the league in rushing. These weren't blowouts you brag about, they were street fights the Bears finally learned how to finish. And the craziest part is that every clutch stop, every forced fumble, every game-changing pick came from a defense that now leads the NFL in taking the ball away. Built by a coordinator who turned chaos into an absolute art form. Dennis Allen walked in and turned a defense that used to give away fourth quarters into the most dangerous group in football when it comes to ripping the ball loose. They sit alone at the top of the league in takeaways because every single level hunts like it's personal. Montez Sweat leads the charge with 7.5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles, using those long arms to punch balls out the second he touches a body, while Grady Jarrett, Jervin Dexter Sr., Austin Booker, Dominique Robinson, and Andrew Billings rotate fresh and keep the pocket dirty all 4 quarters. Injuries hit the linebacker room hard. TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds, and Rubin all missed chunks of time. Yet the standard never dropped because the system is bigger than any one name. The secondary became straight nightmares. Kevin Byard already has 6 interceptions, reading quarterbacks like open books. Jaylon Johnson erases half the field. Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker fly around like missiles. CJ Gardner-Johnson brings the snarl. And Nahshon Wright keeps making the kind of clutch rips that get replayed for weeks. One play, one sudden turnover, and the whole scoreboard flips. That's the luxury Caleb Williams gets now. Extra possessions, shorter fields, and the calm that comes from knowing your defense can steal a game in half a second. And when you pair that with an offense that can bleed clock and punch in the mouth, you end up 9-3 and staring down the toughest closing stretch any contender has. Except this time, nobody in that locker room is hoping for luck anymore. The Bears locker room buzzes with a quiet fire right now, holding a 9-3 mark that puts them right in the mix for the top seed while the rest of the NFC scrambles to keep pace. That number isn't just a stat, it's proof of a team that's turned close calls into clockwork and ugly afternoons into signature moments. Pair that with an offense humming on all cylinders and a defense that feasts on mistakes, and suddenly every matchup feels like home field advantage no matter the zip code. The calendar doesn't pull punches from here, starting with a divisional bloodbath against the Packers, where Jordan Love's big arm will test how deep this confidence runs. Then Cleveland rolls in with that relentless front seven ready to trade body blows, followed by a revenge spot with the Lions that could swing the whole North. Cap it off against the 49ers, a squad that mirrors Chicago's love for grinding it out, and you've got 4 tests that would break lesser groups. But this version of the Bears stares them down like opportunities, not traps. Caleb Williams has already proven he can sling it into tight windows and scramble for chunk plays when the pocket folds, but the next level hits when he starts hitting those crossers with zip and dumping it quick on hot reads. Nail that down, and this group doesn't just sneak into the dance, it kicks the door wide open. Which leads straight to the question burning in every fan's mind. What happens when a team this loaded finally stops growing and starts dominating for keeps? When Caleb Williams starts trusting those quick dumps and ripping seams like second nature, this offense doesn't just balance the load, it crushes defenses from every angle. Top 5 in yards on the ground and through the air without breaking a sweat. Imagine the Bears not chasing relevance but dictating terms, forcing opponents to game plan around a quarterback who's only getting sharper and a staff that's locked in for the long haul. That's the shift from surprise contender to the team everyone else measures against. The NFC used to treat Chicago like yesterday's news, but now every scout's notebook has them circled in red, wondering how a group this physical and opportunistic suddenly feels inevitable. Ben Johnson's vision, Ryan Poles' drafts, and a locker room that's bought in completely mean. This run isn't some flash in the pan. It's the foundation for banners and deep playoff runs that echo for a decade. Smash that like button if you're all in on this Bears takeover. We're gunning for 750 strong, and subscribe with the bell so you don't miss a single beat of what comes next. Because the Bears didn't stumble into contention, they forged it, and the conference that once ignored them is about to learn respect the hard way.